Queen Elizabeth once described a year as an annus horribilis. And for some of you, maybe that description fit for 2009. Maybe you saw a loved one depart for Iraq. Maybe your son or daughter was having serious marital difficulties. Maybe you spent the year worried about your employment or lack thereof. Maybe you struggled with health problems. Whatever it was that you had to face, I'm guessing that perhaps at times you were left feeling, as Yitzhak Rabin's granddaughter once stated, alone in the dark. That's powerful imagery. And maybe that's the way the wise men felt. Alone in the dark. Here they had been summoned by a king, Herod the Great. And although to have one's presence requested by royalty might have been an honor, for them it was a cause for dread. King Herod had a dark side which he didn't try to hide. He was paranoid by nature, and everyone knew that. And throughout his political career, he had a habit of eliminating anyone who got in his way, family or not. For starters, he went after his mother-in-law. But she wasn't the only one. Also his wife and 3 of his sons joined her on Herod's casualty list. 3 of his own sons. No wonder Caesar Augustus remarked, and I quote, "It is safer to be Herod's pig than Herod's child." And so when Herod instructed the wise men to report to him so that he too might know the location of the newborn king, it shouldn't surprise us that they had second thoughts about going back to him. However, we can't ignore the fact that that decision would clearly have put them at risk. Because what would have prevented Herod from sending out a search party to go and decimate those rebels? He loved doing that sort of thing. But my question is, where then did the wise men get the courage to defy the king? That somehow miraculously, having followed the star, having stood in the presence of the Christ child, things changed. They had a dream. And in that dream, they were told to return home another way. And here in the birth narrative, God breaks into history in the most profound way we can experience. The wise men go back a different way, and therein lies all the difference. It reminds me of Robert Frost's immortal poem, The Road Not Taken. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. But what does the wise men's story have to do with us? In answer to that question, I would say everything, because it's our story too. We too have Herods all around us, and there is no shortage. This past week, I read in the paper how in Clearwater, Florida, such a nice name, Clearwater, Florida, an 11-year-old girl, along with her accomplice, who was a 15-year-old boyfriend, set the house on fire as this girl's mother lay sleeping. A hideous crime. But closer to home in Rockland, Maine, a man was sentenced for throwing his 2-month-old to the ground and killing her. Herods are everywhere. But since this is my sermon and it's my choice to focus on what I want, I don't need to stay there. I don't need to stay focused on the subject of evil. Yes, there is plenty of it, assuming all kinds of form. There was this past year, there will be in the year to come. Yet to quote a saying that I've always loved, it's one thing for a bird to fly over your head. It's another thing to let it build a nest in your hair. It reminds me of a lyric by Edward Lear, quote, "There was an old man with a beard who said, 'It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard.'" The bad news we already know, that yes, there are King Herods around us today, and there always will be. But we also have people around us who are like the wise men, who have themselves seen Herod, yet because of also having seen the Christ child, they know that they have it within them to return home another way. The good news is that whenever we make the effort and whenever we allow ourselves to stand before the Christ child, we too will be given the strength and the wherewithal to return home by a new way, a way of light and of truth and of love. This morning I'm inviting you on this Epiphany Sunday not to go home the same way you came, because we come here to God's house of worship to be redirected, to allow His presence to change direction for us, to move us away from the things we don't like in our lives, the habits we don't want anymore, the crabbiness we might have permitted ourselves, the fears that we've allowed to inhibit us, the grudges that have prevented us from connecting with each other, the negativism or the cynicism that blocks progress. You name it. But the call of Epiphany is to let Christ take you home by another way. That's why He was born in the first place. He was born for you. Today is Epiphany Sunday. A seminary professor once asked, "How come nothing epiphs anymore?" And my response is, it does. All the time. Epiphany means manifestation or revelation. And anytime we say yes to His life and ours, we experience Christ's birth for ourselves. The hope in today's text is not that King Herod gets his comeuppance. He doesn't. Historically, we know that Herod died a natural death at a ripe old age. However, the hope of our faith comes in that Herod did not get the last word. God can, and God will, and God does. No matter the present state of your life, nothing, no Herod in your life can ever prevent God from intervening, from working within you, and from finding for you a new way home, a better way, a way in the light. For you have been blessed this day and every day to return home another way. And may it be so. Amen.